Alright everyone, a little bit of a wonky day today because for some reason the archive isn't really working and I've spent an hour trying to get it to actually load things. It's a little bit on the hit and miss side. Maher came out, he's doing the broken clock thing again, but he is fundamentally right on this one. Link in the description, not archived of course. Unfortunately, Bill Maher coming out and saying, oh, the Democrats fucked up, they need to try to understand how they fucked up, acknowledge that they fucked up, and then, you can proceed politically. It appears so far, in the wake of the election, now more than a week on, that the Democrats are not actually going to do that. And he's rolling his eyes because, of course, he's a dedicated never-Trump liberal, and he constantly tries to give the party advice, again, broken clock mode, but the broken clock is right twice a day, and saying, the Democrats overlooked main core issues. They fixated on the same identity politics that may have worked 20 years ago and no longer clearly work, and they're not actually willing to do that soul-searching. They're not willing to address the fact that their party has systemic issues. Number one, you've got a lot of infighting. He doesn't really address that. That's more my take. They've got a huge amount of infighting between the unipartyist sort of neoliberal core of the party, and on the other end, people on the further left, people like Sanders and the Geek Squad. So you've got that. You've got disorganization. Then you've got an unwillingness to address the fact that the kind of slogans and the kind of plans that you've made that have been more palatable for, the recent past are clearly no longer palatable. People in this election, for example, overwhelmingly chose Donald Trump. He won the popular vote, I believe, first Republican to do that in more than 20 years, if I remember correctly. Won the popular vote, slamma-jammed it in the Electoral College. The Republicans swept the Senate. And you still have a Democratic Party that pretends that there's nothing wrong. It's like watching an ostrich put its head in the sand, of course, to use a colloquial reference. Head in the sand mode, they just don't understand why they lost. The issue is quite obvious, though. Fundamentally, people got tired of just hearing, hey, we're going to do this thing. Oh, that sounds good. How are you going to do it? Well, we'll tell you later. We had a literal moment with regards to this. With Kamala Harris, actually, only a few days before the election, when questioned on her stance on upping penalties for drug crimes when she was, an attorney. She wouldn't confirm or deny where she stood on that at the time. Well, after the election we can address that. Right now is not the time to talk about it. That was the moment in which she lost, by the way. One of the many moments, actually. It's just a bellwether of exactly what Kamala Harris was going to do if she was elected. There would be obfuscation, and there would be mixed messages, and you wouldn't really know exactly where she stood on an issue. That's the whole problem. There was never an attempt to create a platform. Sure, you had a couple of planks, but they were hashed together, and half of them were stolen from Donald Trump, which was the funny part. That happened on 3-4 different occasions. That was half of her platform. Oh, Trump is in favor, Trump advance, in favor of expanding the child tax credit. Well, that was actually my idea, he. Of course, you're part of an administration that didn't really address it other than front-ending it. But okay, that wasn't a little bit obtuse. Nobody noticed it. Everything was fine. The problem is not, by the way, Kamala Harris. And this is something that Democrats are getting wrong right now. They're acting as though Kamala Harris was just uniquely poor as a candidate, and this is just a one-off. That it's no further systemic problem with the party or with their ideological structure. I don't think so. I think it's more of a problem that they've created this broad tent party, and they've included people that can't get along with one another. We have a little bit of a problem with the GOP on the same token right now. It's quite clear that the unipartyist Republicans don't want to party hardy with the MAGA Republicans. It's quite clear that they don't really like each other, but for organizational purposes, they've coalesced. You don't have that in the Democratic Party right now. You've got a fractious far left. You have dispossessed union Dems, basically, that kind of align with nobody at this point. There was no attempt to outreach to them, by the way, by the Harris campaign. And then you've got you've got the Pelosi's of the party, people like that. And it forms a trifecta of fair-weathered friends that often stab one another in the back. I believe that the Democrats will lose in 2028 if they don't get their shit together. They may have to be curb-stomped during the midterms in order to actually come to the awareness that it's really a you problem. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not the rise of Nazis. It's not rigging the election or anything like that. It's a you problem. But I don't think that'll happen. Historically speaking, the Democrats are likely to prevail in the midterms, but then in 2028, depending on who the Republican candidate is, I'm not seeing a whole lot of people in the likely lineup for the Democratic Party that can really carry the standard any better than Kamala did. Part of this is because they keep clinging to this mythology that all they have to do is peddle 1990s fiscal talking points, sprinkle it with identity politics, and call it a day. Well, you don't have any Obamas right now. You don't have any soaring speakers. You've got like Newsom and Whitmer and Hochul and people like that, generally from far blue states, so you can't even pick off a swing state through incumbency or anything like that. They've got a huge issue going forward, I think, that's going to be generational. I don't think that it ends with this election. The 24 election, I'm very happy at the result. Of course, I voted for Trump, predicted he'd win, and he did. That's wonderful. That's fine and dandy. Going forward, though, it's almost like the Republicans can't lose because there is nobody to oppose them. And this, by the way, isn't what I want. As a non-Republican, as a non-conservative, it would be nice to have a functioning Democratic Party too, but they're not functioning. They're completely dysfunctional. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. Maher is fundamentally correct, although he doesn't nail every single point about why the Democrats are doing this, having basically a nervous breakdown right now. Trump is running roughshod over them with his cabinet positions, to the point where even some of the Republicans are balking at the prospect. Speaker Mike Johnson going to the Mar-a-Lago and begging Trump not to appoint House members and shit like that. And the Democrats, though, simply are not... They refuse to acknowledge the fact that they lost. They're all sour grapes over the election in general, but it's not even just about that election. That's already done. It's over. It's about the next election. Well, if you don't do any soul-searching, if you don't reorganize your party, if you continue to cling to the same things that failed before, what the hell do you think is going to happen next time? They will lose. That's my prediction for 28 if they don't get their shit together. That's about all. Peace out.